What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to go over the reviews for Resident Evil 3's Remake. Now, the reviews are out. This game releases this upcoming Friday, so not surprising. They obviously came out yesterday, so I'm a little bit, I'm like a day late, maybe slightly less than a day late. But I kind of want to go over, the Metacritic score, what people seem to be saying about this game overall. And to be quite honest, a lot of it kind of lines up with what we talked about. I believe last week I talked about just generally my thoughts, my impressions going into this game of what to kind of expect or what I was expecting from it, and the review scores are solid. I think we've been in this little area, I would say, in the gaming atmosphere, right, where we've just been getting home runs after home runs. We had Neo, even before then we had Dreams, we had Neo, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Doom, Animal Crossing. I guess you could even, Predator's Trial was a lot of fun. Obviously that's not like a reviewable really thing, but we've had a lot of really amazing things, and Resident Evil 3 seems to be the next step lower. It's not a bad game. It's not even, I would say, an average game. It seems to be an above average game is probably what I guess, again, like the average of people are saying. Now, that's not to say a lot of the reviews for this game, when I'm recording this, it's got an 80 on Metacritic, okay? That's based off of a lot of people giving it in the 90s or in the 9, whichever one you want to say, and a lot of 8.5/85s. A lot, and I mean like a lot. There's like 6, 7, 8 scores that are doing that. Then there's some that are lower. There's some that are at the 80s. There's some that are in the 70s. There's even one that's actually a 6 or a 60 out of 100. And again, when you read through these, I've tried to read honestly as many of these reviews, as many of the videos as I could. It seems like the general approach to this game is it's not as good as Resident Evil 2's Remake, and some have even said that they feel like it's kind of unfair to this game because it did come right after, and it's not necessarily asking to be compared to it, but that's what it is. I mean, it's in the franchise, it's another remake, it's a year after the games before it remake, so it's got a lot of those eyes looking at it, and I think a lot of reviewers are actually keeping that in mind when talking about it. It's kind of like the lesser sibling to it, which sucks, but overall I think that's a fair assessment. Another thing I saw a lot of is that this game is very, very short. Now, you could say Resident Evil 2's Remake was really short. This game, a lot of people are beating it in under 5 hours. I've seen that number go around in plenty of reviews. Seems like you can beat this entire game in under 5 hours. Now, the problem is there's not a lot of reasons why you would go back to this game. Obviously, in the second game, you could replay it. There were slight differences. Even maybe in that game, it wasn't, unless you were like a diehard or like you really wanted to get all your money out of it, but there wasn't every reason in the book to go back. This game seems like there's even less, that they're really, after you beat this game, you spend 4 or 5 hours in it, that's pretty much it. There's not a lot to do afterwards. Now, yes, there is the multiplayer mode that gets added to it, so that is going to add some value, and I think that's very smart. I think people have really enjoyed that. A lot of reviews aren't talking about that, and because I feel like they just don't have enough, people aren't really playing it, or people can't play it, so you really can't say much about it. But in its beta, in its trials, all those kind of things, people have seemed to really, really like the online component. So I honestly feel like that's going to help it. But length seems to be a major problem. Lack of things to do, and then they kind of vary. Some people have said, I've read a couple of things that have said like the aiming and the gunfire isn't very good. I've seen some that say the Nemesis, while he's supposed to be this insanely terrifying monster, like I guess what people had remembered him being like 20 years ago in the game, like yes, they do him good, right? They kind of like keep that about him, but he's mainly used for like roadblocks instead of just being very, very scary. So it's not necessarily like a Mr. X situation where like people literally, that became like a phenomenon, right? Back in January of last year, like once you see him move that helicopter, it's game, like the rest of the game, it completely changes, right? It seems like they don't really and again, and these are all things I've talked about in the video last week, is like, well, it's kind of all to be expected, and Resident Evil 3 when it came out was kind of this divisive game, and a lot of people are saying that now, that like this game they feel like is going to have the same impact on people that the original had on people, because that's kind of just what it is. This game, when you think of the Resident Evil franchise, I think when you think of this game, game, you think of the Nemesis. You think of Nemesis. That's all you really think of, right? And you think of him saying stars. You think, I don't even know. People are saying that they're enjoying the story, so I guess you can think of the story, but that's really what you think of. It was really around this time that Resident Evil started to have kind of a crisis on its hands, and then Resident Evil 4 really saved it, in my opinion, or at least from what I can kind of gather up. It really did kind of bring it back together, and then obviously what happened with 5 and 6, that's a different story altogether. And I had said that last week that I was a little worried about how this game would be perceived, that I don't think it ever, even in the original, was looked at as this kind of masterpiece. So now, right now, we're comparing it to, well, how did it do in the remake? Did it keep everything, did it do everything right? How is it compared to Resident Evil 2's remake? All that kind of stuff. And they did change some stuff. They really did. I've seen that they've made it, and obviously this is to be expected, like they made things a little bit faster paced. They did try and add some scares. They actually took out some things as well. But I think that they updated it for 2020. That's pretty much, I think, the best way you can say it, is they updated it for 2020, which is what we could all have expected. But it seems like, to be quite honest, the reviews are kind of backing up all of the concerns / the good things that I was saying. It's a remake. It's going to look beautiful. It does look beautiful. There's a lot of positives about it. People are enjoying it. I think the general idea is it's just too short, and there's really not much to do afterwards, and that's what's kind of leading people to... And also, again, and what I've said, I feel like that gloss of how amazing it is, and the fact that the remake last year, Resident Evil 2's remake, caught us by surprise, I would say. Resident Evil 7, when that came out, people weren't really, thinking about it that much. Came out, oh my god, right? Everybody was talking about it. Resident Evil 2's remake, it was like, all right, well, they did really good with 7. Let's see if they can bounce back, or let's see if they can continue, I guess, and let's see if they can do something that's kind of weird. Like, no one, I guess people were asking for it, but like, you'd think 8 would have been the next, thing that they would have done. Let's see how they do. And you know what? It blew people out of the water. People were very, very impressed. But that was a surprise. That was when people still weren't really critical. People weren't really hyper, analyzing it. And now we know. Now we're like, all right, we had a Game of the Year contender, basically, in Resident Evil 2 Remake. I mean, I bought it myself. I played it. I loved it. And now with Resident Evil 3, it's like, okay, well, now we have all those eyes on you. How are you going to do? But also, again, kind of unfairly, I don't really think Resident Evil 3 was the best game in the world to begin with. I don't even know if it was better than Resident Evil 2. So automatically, maybe you're starting with less material, and then, yes, it's going to look good, it's going to feel good, it's going to play good, all that kind of stuff. But then there's just things you can't get around. Why do you think they added multiplayer? I truly think they thought at some point, like, okay, we're not giving them that much because there wasn't that much to this game. Obviously, it makes sense for us to remake it because it just does, but like they're going to need to play something. And so they thought, okay, well, we're going to do as much as we can for the story and the campaign and all that stuff, and they did. And then we're going to add this multiplayer. I feel like that has to be the major reason why they threw that in. I really don't see why else they would have done it. It just makes so much sense. So again, this seems like, it kind of is, I would say deflating. I don't know if that's really the right word, but it's just, it kind of sucks. And it's also, again, like not a bad thing. Like this is not a bad game. Again, people are having a lot of fun with it. It's just that where we are, we've just gotten Doom, we just got Animal Crossing. They're like Game of the Year candidates, right? We got Neo. The Neo crowd adores it. All of these kind of games. Next week, next Friday, is Final Fantasy VII. Okay, I mean, like, that's going to be massive. People are very excited. So it's just like, it's not that Resident Evil 3 is like disappointing or it's just average, because I think it's above average. I don't really think it's disappointing. It probably falls in line with what a lot of people were expecting from it, but it just sucks where it is because it's kind of stuck in a, well, it's not a masterpiece. It's not bad, but it's not a masterpiece, and we've been getting it, and now there's all these other games. So it's an interesting spot. We really haven't seen... I think we started the year kind of weak, like with Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, and there really wasn't all that much stuff out besides that, and then maybe Dreams in February. Now we're getting all of these games, and this is kind of that first one that's not like in the high 8s, in the low 9s, and review scores are not everything. I 100% understand that and agree with it, by the way. I don't really even go based off review scores. I mean, if I'm going to get the game, I'm going to get the game. And if I'm disappointed by it, well, I mean, you can do your own research, right? You can watch all the videos in the world and make your own, grasp of, is this game for me? Am I going to like this game? And you can do that. The review scores is just something that other people definitely look at, and that's why I've liked to talk about it. So, guys, let me know in the comments below. Has this changed your mind? Were you guys getting Resident Evil 3 this Friday? Did you guys see the review scores? Are you guys excited for it? All those kind of things, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel podcast now. Hit that bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And we'll have a couple Resident Evil videos throughout this weekend, I believe. So around Saturday, Sunday, we'll have more videos Resident Evil related. So if you guys like that, again, make sure you have that bell icon rung so you know when all these videos go up. Okay, thank you again so much for watching. Stay safe out there, guys. I hope to see you all on the next video.